Hello, hello, hello. Crafty Chris here with another Thursday night Scrap Your Scraps. Today we're going to work with a technique that is a folding technique. Uses up a fair bit of your scraps and can be used for a number of different cards, both portrait and landscape sized, and a number of different themes depending on what pattern and materials you use. So the basic technique gives you this cute little looks like a tablecloth fold or a curtain fold, and you can see the paper that is on the back side poking through. This is actually quite good if you have paper that you don't really like the back side. You won't see very much of it, but it's enough so that people can see that it's a pleat. And this is just taped on right now as a demo, but you should actually double side tape these down, which I will do later. The size I'm working on right now gives you 1/8 of an inch border all the way around, and I will get to it. So the first thing you need is a 3 by 6 inch paper. So you can take a 12-inch paper, cut it in half, and then make your 3-inch paper cut. Or if you have scraps, like I happen to have scraps lying around that are, 4 1/4 by 6. This one is 6 inches already. So I'm just going to put that in here and cut it down to 3 inches. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that the thinner pattern paper, that's a nice scrap for your scrap drawer. The thinner paper is a little easier to do this technique, but you can do it with the thicker paper. You just have to make sure that you are making your folds very, very, very flat. All right, so with the portrait size paper, you're going to want to start at the 2-inch level. So my paper, just to repeat, is 3 inches by 6 inches, and I'm going to start at the number 2, and the heavier the paper, the little more pressure I put on, but basically I go over my bone folding 3 times. So that's the start of your folding section. Now, in order to bend that over so that the pleat occurs, you need to add 1/4 inch onto that. So now I'm scoring at 2 1/4 inches. And then I'm going from there over to 3 inches so that my flat face is exactly 3/4 of an inch. Now I have to go under again, so 3 1/4 inches, and then 4 inches. 4 1/4 inches, and then 5 inches. 5 1/4 inches, and then 6 inches is the end of my paper. So as you can see, I have my score lines. So I have 2 inches, 2 1/4, 3 inches, 3 1/4, 4 inches, 4 1/4, 5 inches, 5 1/4, and then 6 is the end of my paper. So let me just pull this out of the way. So before I score this, I'm going to trim it down. Now the trick to this is to know where your 2-inch finishes, and that top part is going to stay out of your cutter. So I'm going to line up my 2-inch with the side of my cutter, okay? Then this point down on the left-hand side is going to go to the 2.5 mark. So I've got the point hitting, or 1.5, pardon me. So 1.5 over and down, my point on the left-hand side. And this is only if you're having your folds to the right of the card. If you're having your folds to the left of the card, you would flip this around. Anyway, we can talk about that later. So I have my right folded card and the left tip of the bottom of that card on the 1.5. I'm lining up my 2-inch mark. So here there's no folds, and now I'm going to cut. And that gives me my scalloped edge. Okay, like that that piece that now this is going to create those folds where you can see a little bit of what's on the background poking through. Okay, that you can toss, you can do whatever you want. You might want to keep it, you might want to fold it because it still will go into pleats. All right, putting this aside, now it's time to fold. So every time we fold on our 2-inch, we're going to fold our first line completely over. And you want to line it up, especially if you have heavy paper. You want to line it up carefully and make that fold nice and flat. And then you're going to go to the 1/4 inch. Do you see now I'm folding at the 1/4 inch? Okay, and I'm folding that back, and I want to line that up as well, as much as I can. And then I'm going to my 3/4 inch. So there you have it, lining that up along with everything I've done so far, folding it nice and stiff, and then I'm going to go back on my 1/4 inch fold so you get this zigzag effect happening, and that's what creates your pleats. And whenever I do it, I just go back and forth over all of my folds. So now I'm going 3/4 inch more to that fold line, and then back 1/4 inch to that fold line, and then over 3/4 inch again, and back 3/4 inch, or 1/4 inch, and that's the last one. So my last piece is 3/4 inch, and now you can see what's underneath on the back, but I don't like the back, so it's just a little bit on there. Okay, so then you're going to mount this onto your card. Now you can do a number of ways of mounting it onto your card. Obviously you can use glue, you can use tape runner. I am going to use double-sided tape. If I can find it. Yes, I can. Because I want to make sure that it's stuck down well. And I'm going to use a wider tape to really make sure I get that all pushed down properly. Now I know that this finished outline is going to be like 1/8 inch all the way around. A little bit more than 1/8 inch all the way around. So I'm going to put my tape on the back of this, which will help to keep it stiff and aligned. So let's make sure we're lining those up as we put our tape down, because we don't want any shifting happening. There we go. And then you just trim this off with a nice pair of scissors. I'm a right-hander, so I usually do my trimming on the right-hand side. Okay, so we have that. And we're going to put another piece across the bottom. And grab. Maybe I don't want to grab. So I'm just going to put it to that point, because otherwise it will show. Okay. And then I'm just going to put a piece in here. A piece in here. And then I'm going to take about that much and cut it in half. And I'm just going to put it where the other folds are, sort of on a diagonal, so it keeps them together. And so that I can't see any tape. Now on the front, I'm going to need 1/4 inch tape to keep these guys from popping up. Okay. So I've got my 1/4 inch tape. Could have done this first. It would have made everything easier, I think. So I'm going to use 1/8 inch. 1/4 inch is just a little too close to the size, and it will have me probably frustrated. Okay. I just need to hold it down. So here we go. There's one piece. Take it off. Fold it under. There's 2 pieces. Doesn't have to go right to the top. Make sure it doesn't poke out. And then there's 3 pieces. So the heavier the card, the more secure you got to make sure you make it, because it will bulge otherwise. The lighter the card, the less you need to do of this kind of stuff. The fold will probably be enough. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm ready to adhere that onto my card. All right, so I've over taped it because I know that mine is hard cards, heavy cardstock. So I want to make sure that it sticks and stays down. Oh, that's tape. Stuck to me. Okay. And I'm just going to sort of eyeball, give it a frame, and there we go. So there is my finished piece. Now that's on a portrait. On a landscape, you have a slightly different measurement. So landscape, you want to turn out this way. So when you think about the math of this, and this is what we're going to talk about now, I want at least the same amount of space over from the edge, and this time I'm going to do it from side to side. So this piece actually measures 2 1/4, if I'm not mistaken. Let me get my ruler somewhere. There we go. So that piece measures 2 inches. What do I have here? 2 1/4 inches. Okay, this is slightly bigger because we got to go further. So I can start my measurements anywhere as long as I have enough space for them to have a full 3/4 inch. And that, sorry, not 3/4 inch. I may have to trim some on this. Anyway, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a 9-inch piece of cardstock. And I'm just going to double check the measurement on this. So this is definitely 9 inches. So I'm going to take 3 inches off the bottom of this. Yep, wrong cutter. Wrong cutter. Right cutter. So I'm going to take 3 inches off the bottom of this. Now, when you do this, you have to remember that your pattern has to align with your direction. Top to bottom, it's 3 inches, so my pattern has to lay sideways in my cutter if I'm going to keep it going in the right direction across the page. All right. So there we have. So it will fold up now in the right direction. Now, I'm going to do this the exact same way, but I'm going to do it in reverse now. Oh, that's 9.5 inches. I wanted 9 inches. Gotta make sure it's the right length. So it's 3 by 9 inches. By 9 inches. There we go. That can go in your scrap container. Okay. So we have 3 by 9. So I know that my top piece is going to end up 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go backwards. So I'm going down to 8.25 and then to 8. And 7.25 and 7, 6.25 and 6. This paper is lighter, so I don't need to go over it as much. 5.25 and 5, 4.25 and 4, 3.25 and 3, and 2.25. No, I'm going to leave it at 3. So I'm not going to go all the way back to 2. I want a little more of a flat area there. So I did some embossing on it, but now I'm just going to erase my embossing by going over top of it, and it flattens it out. You still see a small mark, but that's about it. All right. So now I have to cut my angle. So I'm starting with it at 3. I'm going to fold this so I can see my angle or my first line clearly. Make sure it's all lined up. There we go. I'm going to get my smaller cutter out because it's easier for me to play with. And I'm going to line up this with 1.5. So my 1.5 mark is here. Let's try that again. Yep, 1.5 mark is there. And my fold line is there. So my tip is on 1.5 and my fold line is now at the cutter edge, and I make my slice. Okay, so again, this is if you're doing things on the right hand side. If you're doing things on the left hand side, you would just turn it over and do it on the back side. So, but I'll show you one of those. So don't go ahead and do it until we've done 2 on the right side, and then we'll do 2 on the left side. Okay, so now I have my first one lined up. Just going to make sure it's nice and stiff, and then my 1/4 inch is going to line up. Make sure it's nicely folded. My 3/4 of an inch is going to line up. Make sure it's nicely folded. And my 1/4 of an inch is lined up. Make sure it's nicely folded. My 3/4 inch, lining that up. Just make sure everything's folded nicely while you're there. And then folding that 1/4 inch back again. And folding it forward again. Whoops. For that 3/4 inch, and then folding it back that 1/4 inch, making sure it's lined up nicely. Doesn't seem to want to line up nicely. There we go. and then forward again. And then back that 1/4 inch again. That's a little off. There we go. And forward again, and back that 1/4 inch. Now, for all intents and purposes, this should fit on my 5 by 5.5 or 4 1/4 by 5.5 card. So I just have to find one. Here we go. And let's see if I did my measurements correctly. Oh, I did not. You know why? Because I was definitely stopping at the 2. So I'm going to fix that by adding in 3/4 of an inch and then a 1/4 inch. So, and then I'll repeat that so you know what I'm doing. Okay, so from 3, I'm going down to 2 1/4 and 2. So I'm not going to have that nice big space I want. I'm going to correct my trim. So everything is correctable. So I'm going to go back here, put this guy under here, find my 2-inch spot there, and all of this would have finished. Let me get into the space so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got my 2-inch spot there, and all of this would have finished on that corner edge. So we may have to get the bigger cutter for this. So let's see what happens. Yeah, I need the taller cutter for this. So it's the same process. We're just correcting the angle of the cut because now we've added one in and it's flat. We want to, so I'm lining up at the very bottom here. I'm lining up this tip with the edge of my cutter, and this fold, which is my 2-inch, is going to go right at the edge of my cutter. So this is lined up with the tip of my cutter, and now I'm just going to play with this so that I can bring out the edge of the paper. There we go. And I just corrected the cut. Okay, this little bitty bit. And we're good to go here. Okay, so we'll do another one to go over that. And now I'm just going to, this has all been folded properly. So now I'm just going to fold this one to match everybody else. There we go. And now this should fit edge to edge. Oh, it's just a little bit less than edge to edge. Right. Okay, I know what I did. So I'll show you another one. Anyway, this now has 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So that's 1/8 of an inch. This is 1/8 of an inch. So let's talk about this. So this piece was 3 inches wide, and this piece was also 3 inches wide. This piece was cut to 6 inches. This piece was cut to 9 inches. This piece had a 2-inch flat spot, and then a 1/4 inch bend, and a 3/4 inch, 1/4, 3/4 inch, 1/4, 3/4 inch, 1/4, 3/4 inch. This one had a 2-inch spot. Let me make sure that's true. Yep, this had a 2-inch flat spot, and then 1/4, 3/4, 1/4, 3/4, quarter, 3/4 quarter, 3/4 quarter, blah, 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 all the way off. Both of these have a frame on them, an outside edge. Okay, so the trick now is to change the math so that these can be full right across from side to side on each of these. So we're going to figure that one out. This one, I think I know what I did wrong. I have to do 2 1/4 is where I'm going to start, and here also 2 1/4. But first let's stick this down. So on this card it has 1/4 inch all the way around, and this card is going to have 1/16 inch all the way, or 1/8 inch all the way around. So the first thing I'm going to do is the folds, because then it's easier to stick the back down. And keep it all together. This paper is a little lighter, so it's a little easier. There we go. Every time I do things, I learn something new. And I have you guys to thank, because I get to do it over and over again when I'm showing you and running into trouble. Come on, get up there. All right, so I'm just doing the front facing 1/4 inch adhesive and lining it up as I stick it down. That's how we keep it all lined up. There we go. Just put the tape down, then I can get rid of the tape. There we go. Now I'm going to fold this and lining it up as I go. Make sure I keep it in alignment. Don't want to go off alignment, because then you end up having some trouble when you're sticking it on your paper. It won't look straight. And we have a fix for that anyway. Okay, so now get the wide stuff. Starting here. Okay, and across the top. I know everything is going to be okay because I literally already lined everything up on the other side. And we're going to trim that off. I'm going to trim this on an angle. There we go. And then just put a piece there. And a piece there. That should be good enough. Take all the bits off. There we go. All right. Oops, we forgot one. It got folded over. It's okay. There we go. There we are. And then we're just going to give ourselves that 1/16 inch that it seems to need, or 1/8 inch that it seems to need, eyeballing. There we go. And because this is half the height of that, you also could have adjusted the height and gone with a 2 inch rather than a 3 inch height. Okay. So there we go with those two. Now those all started with a 2 inch base, and that left you with 1/4 inch on this one and 1/2 inch on that one. So we need to adjust for that. So we're going to do another round. We are going to have, I'm going to add some more to this. So I'm adding another 1/4 inch in order for this to come over. So it would be 9 1/4 inches I need for my horizontal one. So let's grab a paper and get 9 1/4 inches. Let's see, something fun. I'm going to do this one, 9 1/4 inches, and because I want it to come down a little bit, I think I'm going to do 2 inches. Let me get my ruler so I can see what that looks like. So if I do 2 inches, maybe I'll do 2 1/4 inches high, just so this has some weight, because 2 1/4 inches means that that top piece is that high. So that's good. Okay, 2 1/4 inches long, or wide. So we're going to do that one first. 2 1/4 inches wide. There we go. And then we're going to do 9 1/4 inches wide. So we're adding this 1/8 and that 1/8 together, and that's going to give us this 1/4. So we have to add a 1/4 to cover that. And that piece goes in your stash. And just make sure I cut that right. Yep, there's your 9 1/4 piece. Now this is kind of thick paper. So we're going to do we want our last piece to be the 3/4 inch. So if we go from 9 1/4 back 3/4 inch, that puts us at 8 1/2. And then 1/4 down from that is 8 1/4. 7 1/2. 7 1/4. 6 1/2. 6 1/4. 5 1/2. 5 1/4. I think I need to go over those just a little bit more. Not too hard. Okay, and then 4 1/2, 4 1/4, 3 1/2, 3 1/4. Okay, I'm going to try 2 1/2 and 2, whoops, did I do that? Yep, and 2 1/4. Let's see if this works out. So we did 3/4 inch, and then 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch, 1/4, 3/4 inch, 1/4, 3/4 inch, 1/4, 3/4 inch, 1/4, 3/4 inch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 3/4 inch, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 1/4 inches. So now we're going to do our trimming. Now because I shortened this, I'm going to have to pull back on the angle that I cut when I'm trimming the side, that cutout. So I'm going to fold this down first, make it nice and flat, make sure it's lined up. Okay, so now I know where my fold is. So instead of 1 1/2 inches, I'm just going to go to 1 inch. So we're going to start at 1 inch down here and line up there. You know what? I don't like the way it looks, so I'm going to go to 1.5 inches. I lied. 1.5 inches, and this is why it's good that you can adjust things as you go. There we go. Alrighty, so there's our piece. You can keep it if you want. So I stuck with the 1.5 inches. Okay, so making sure that this lines up and folding that quarter over and lining it up. Folding the quarter over, making sure it lines up. And then the 1/4 inch folding back. Oh, I hope this works. And a 1/4, folding the 1/4 back. Folding 3/4 over. And folding the 1/4 back. Folding the 3/4 over. And folding the 1/4 back. Folding 3/4 over. It's weird, you gotta get it really lined up there. Folding a 1/4 back. And 3/4 over. And a 1/4 back. All right. Please let this work. So, where do we have a card I can use? Here we go. I'm just going to rip this temporary one off there. And line that up. Oh! We're still not right. That is an interesting dilemma. Yep, that's 3/4 of an inch. So that is interesting. Changing all those measurements did not change this. Still pretty much the same as above. But we have more of a space here. Okay, I'm going to have to think about that and get back to you. All right, so anyway, we're sticking with our 9 and our 6. I think that's the easiest way to play this. The 9 and the 6. It's just nice round numbers. So we're doing, okay, so we've done everything going in one direction. Let's play with what if I want this side, but I want everything to go in a different direction. So I'm going to cut myself a piece of paper. So I'm going to do 3 inches, or no, I'm going to do 2, what was this one? This was a better height, I think. Yeah, if I'm going to, yeah, that was a better height, and that was 2 1/4 inches. So I'm going to cut a strip, 2 1/4 inches. Make sure it's 2 1/4 inches, Chris, by 9 inches. And now I'm going to do the other side, and I'm going to go in a different direction. So I'm going to put it in my cutter. I'm going to still start from this edge because it's easier for me to remember going from the flat surface and fold into the non-cut stuff. So I'm going from 9 inches down to 8 1/4 inches, and then 8 inches, and then down to 7 1/4 inches and 7 inches, 6 1/4 inches and 6 inches, 5 1/4 inches and 5 inches, 4 1/4 inches and 4 inches, 3 1/4 inches and 3 inches. Okay, so I've done all my scoring: 3/4 quarter, 3/4 quarter, 3/4 quarter, 3/4 quarter, 3/4 quarter, 3/4 quarter, and there's 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there's 6 of them. Interesting. We'll see what happens now. All right. Let's see what happens now, because that leaves us with 3 inches here. All right, so now before I do this, I want to cut my angle, but I want to cut it the opposite direction. So I want to cut it from here to here. So I'm going to, if I cut from here to here, that's going the wrong way. I want to cut from here to here, which would be going the right way, to go in the other direction. So when we did our first sets, we cut from left to right. Okay, we put it in the cutter so that this was on the left side of the blade and this was on the right side of the blade, 1.5 inches in. Now we have to do the opposite. So we're going to go so we are in effect going to turn this over and cut on the wrong side. Is that going to work? So this is the way I want it to be. This is the color I want it to be. Yeah, so we're going to flip this over and cut it in the opposite side, still using the flat piece with no embossing on the right side of the blade, and this tip 1.5 in on the left side of the blade. So let's get that going. So this one we cut that way because we wanted it to go across our page with the angle going up to the right. So we in effect are, and because we want this side to be our good side, we now have to flip everything over and do a cut in the opposite direction so that we get it going. So we're doing the same direction but on the opposite side of the paper. So I'll show you what I mean. It's hard to explain. So we're going to 1.5 inches out, and I'm going to move it down here so I can hold it. 1.5 inches out for my right tip. Now this is the wrong side of the paper, lining up where my fold line is. There we go. Making sure everything is aligned. There we go. And cutting. So now when I flip this over and we're going to fold it up, it's going to go in a totally opposite direction. Okay, so this one is going to go that way. This one is going to go this way. Okay, So you just have to flip it over, and remember you're doing the same cut, just on the opposite side of the page. Alrighty. So we have different measurements on this one now, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Lining up. And 1/4 inch down. Lining up. Wow, it's weird doing it backwards. Done so many going the other direction. This way. And then 1/4 inch down. And lining that up. And 1/4 inch down. And lining this up. And the 1/4 inch down. Oops. Looks a little bit crooked to me. There we go. And 3/4 inch up and lining it up. And then the 1/4 inch down. Okay, so here we go. This is the side we want to see on this side, and that was the side we wanted to see on the other side. So you have your alternating sides now. Okay, now let's see how this measures out on the page. So I'm going to put it right into the corner. I think we're too long now. Look at that, we are too long. So we're going to go in 1 more 3/4 inch and 1 more 1/4 inch, and that will, or I'm just going to trim the end off. That's good enough. I can't do the math right now. Okay, so there we go. So now we have it going in a different direction. All right, and you would use the same instructions as we used on this one, except if you wanted the other side of the paper, you would flip it over to make that angle cut. Okay, that's all you're doing. Now, I am going to show you a couple of different ways that I have used this paper and on cards. So, I was looking through my stuff and I decided I wanted to make 2 Halloween cards. So I've got some 3 by 6 more or less inch card, and I want to do one. Now I'm going to do them both horizontal, or vertical rather. So I've got 2 vertical cards here. Now, one of these is slightly short because the paper was not exactly 12 by 12. So I'm going to trim this off 1/8 inch. So it has a tiny bit of a border around it. So I just want to try to make sure that it fits properly. And this is mirror card. Now, the thing about your mirror cards and such is that, yeah, I need a little bit of a sliver more, is that you don't want to waste it underneath something else. So, there we go. That should work. Let's just double check. Perfect. So I am going to go in and cut out the section, or a part of the section where this will end up being, and I won't really know till I'm finished doing these, and then I can figure out how much of that card I can take out from under there, if it's even worth taking out. So first of all, this one should fit perfectly. Yes, that one fits side to side. Perfect. Alrighty, so I've got my Halloween bitty bits, and I'm going to need some kind of a ribbon. Let's see. I think I am going to use a black ribbon. But I also have, okay. So I have this black gold ribbony bit that I think I'll use and tie for a bow. So I'm just going to pull a length of that out, have it ready to trim. Okay, so we have to start with our piece. Our two pieces. So I'm going to have them both come to the right, because to be honest, when I did them to the left, I didn't really like it. And do I want to have them both the same or two different ones? I like this. So I'm going to leave that like that, and this like this. Oh, one slightly larger than the other. Figures. Okay. So I'm going to do my 2 inches. I think I better do one at a time. This is very stiff cardstock. So 2 1/4 after I did 2. 3, 3 1/4, 4, 4 1/4, 5, 5 1/4. Okay, that's one done. 2 1/4, 3 1/4, whoops, 4 1/4, 5 1/4. All right. You'll find that as you are doing these, they become quicker and quicker and quicker. Alrighty. Okay, so this is going to be 1 1/2 inches at the bottom, and I am going to fold that nice and neatly. It's very stiff. There we go. Okay, so there's that. 1 1/2 inches. There we go. Okay. Now there's this one. Make sure it's nice and folded. I'm working on Halloween and things are shifting in my office mysteriously. It's scary. 1 1/2. There we go. Alrighty. Put this aside. Now we can fold these. And I can call it out if you need me to. By now, you've probably figured it out. keep it all nice and straight as possible. All right. I like this kind of gestury paper. Reminds me of Harlequin. Well, is very Harlequinish. All right, just get this done. And you will see how quickly. It's not so much the making of cards that is the problem, it's the pulling together of the materials you want to use for it. And then if you're going to do it, you want to make it worth your time, so you might as well do more than one. That's kind of my process. If I'm going to do it, I want to do more than one. Don't want them identical, but certainly want them to have some interest. Okay, so on the front of these, we're going to stick it down. And I'll open it up here. Okay, that's one. And let's just do the other one while we're here. So I'm just putting my 16th or 1/8 inch double-sided tape down. Alrighty. Make sure that's all nice down. Nice and down. And making sure I'm lining up again when I'm sticking these back down. Okay, there's one. Then we're just going to stick adhesive on the back. This is 1 inch. Whatever you have is fine. Make sure all your edges are out. And I usually put the big stuff across the top in one fell swoop. Trim it back. There we go. And then we can put this here. Do an angle cut. There we go. I don't need a full piece of that, so I'm just going to run a line of my, just across all those guys. That should be good enough. So this guy is ready to go. Now I want him on the short one. So like that. He's going to go in there like that. All right, now I don't think I'm going to bother cutting out. There's only barely a 2x3 piece there and a little square over here, so I'm just going to stick it all down. All right, now this you can put down with regular adhesive if you have some handy. I think I packed mine up. I'm going crafting, so So I've got this one that's broken, but I keep wanting to use it up, which I can do. There we go. I just got to keep pulling the plastic away, not letting it roll back on itself. So when I do that, then I have trouble. There we go. Awesome. Make sure I have my card open to the right side. And I'm a bit of a fussy budget, but I don't like these little tabs that are left over from die cutting. So I'm just going to trim those off because I can. That's a little better. Okay, now we're going to center this guy on here as best as possible. Doesn't feel like my card is cut straight. It isn't. It goes up on the edge here. So that's annoying. All right, quality of cards, right? Don't really want to have my sticky fingerprints all over there. Yeah, well, it's going to happen anyway. All right, and now this guy is ready to get put down. And we're going to give that more or less, try to center that. There we go. And now I'm going to get some of my I'm going to pull my yarn out of here because it's fraying, so I don't want it to be frayed like that. So I'm going to use it right off the roll. Not happy with how that happened. Look at that, all the way down. And that's better. So if you get a fray in your ribbon, all you have to do is just reorganize the threads by moving them gently with your finger, spreading them out, and then pulling the thread or the ribbon tightly. So hang on a second. So I just have this, I had a long strip, now it's all good except for that spot right there. So I'm just going to play with that a little more. And there we go. All gone. All gone. That's the good thing about stuff that's woven. All right, so I am wanting my ribbon my bow on this side, and I'm going to make my bow in advance. And it's going to wrap around the whole thing. I think I want this side. This side has the better looking stuff. Nope. I'll go with this. Okay, so I'm going to have a little to tuck behind. Oops. This guy should go down. That guy should go up. Maybe not quite as big a bow. A little bit smaller. There we go. So this is going to go here. And I'm going to cut just a little bit here. I probably should have done that before I stuck everything down, but luckily I did not use two-sided tape. So it's all good. Now I stick ribbon down with pop dots, which I happen to have right here, because I find that they work the best. So I'm going to have one on the very back of the bow. And I probably shouldn't have taken that off just yet. I'm going to have one on the underturned side. Okay. And I think I'll put that on right away. Sure I line up. Okay. So I'm just going to wrap that behind. There we go. Then I'm just going to finish putting some dots on. Two more should do it. It's not going to have any wear and tear. So one and two, and then that's three, and then I'll have a dot here where it folds under on the other side. Okay. It's a little finicky, especially if the dots don't want to come off and they stick to everything. As long as they stick to the card, that's the most important thing. Okay, so the dots are coming across to here. The bow is going to be there. And then this is going to wrap around on the other side. And there we go. There's our bow. And I think I have it maybe a little too far over, but that's okay. I am going to put Spooky Season is upon us. And then I'm going to have the haunted house. There we go. So there we go. Now I'm going to stick these down. It's too bad I don't have There we go. The spooky house is going to go right there. Now I can pop dots, spooky season. Let's do that with some mini pop dots. 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to stand up so I can put this on there. Spooky season. And this I'm just going to stick right to the bottom. Is upon us. And I just have to trim out a couple of bats, which I'm going to glue down and then put stickles on. They're teeny tiny. Whoop, come back here, you. I could have probably done bigger ones, but you know, that would be way too easy, right? If it's not fussy enough for me, then I can't, it has to be done a different way. Let's see. I need a pair of tweezers. Here we go. Because I gotta hold this guy. My fingers are too big. There we go. And just hold him by his body. So I can now trim around. Oops. There we go. There he is. Very, very small. Okay, so I need just a teeny tiny bit of glue. Teeny tiny. There we go. Take my, there we go. And we're going to have this guy up here. Gotta be careful that the glue doesn't wreck your paper. I always make sure I have glue that can rub off and turns into, you know, that funny little stuff when you had glue when you were a kid in school and it left a skin on your hand. All right, so there's one. Here's another one. It's warm. Get the big parts out. And I'll hold his body. And trim the rest. This is going to be tricky. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Hardest part of the whole tag. Should have just bought already made ones, right? Nope, it's going to take off his wing. I don't want to take off his wing. Come back. Sorry, folks. This is a challenge. But I will get it. Oops. There we go. Almost de-winged him. And then I just have a little bit there. It needs to come off. There we go. All right. Whew. That was hard work. I just want a little bit. Oh. My glue is already drying because it's quick dry glue. There we go. All right. So there we have our Halloween card. And, oh look, I had another bat. I'm not going to do another bat for you. I am going to finish the first card. All right, so this one is Spooky Season. And there's that nice fold. So it's taken it from that country look into a more chic, urban-y color line. And now let's finish up this one. Make sure I don't want anything causing a problem. There's a little bit of glue here, so I'm just rubbing it off so I don't get it on the front of the card. There we go, that's better. And using up my tape that's broken. Just do little bits at a time. It seems to work perfectly. There we go. And this card needs a trim too. I know. For some reason, it's not straight. Guess it's all about whether your machinery is doing the right thing. Look at that corner. It's crazy. Okay. I don't want to be excessive, but all right. Then And I just line the two up. And there you go. So let's finish this. Making sure to line it up as you... There we go. And we're going to put that... Let's put this piece down here. And this piece can go straight across. And I'll just put some of the thin stuff down the center, just to hold it. All right, make sure we have that opening on the right side. Whoops. There we go. There we go. It's good to rub down your tape so you don't end up doing what I just did. Alrighty, so we're going to line that up. Something like that. There we go. And we're gonna, oh, I should have done this before I did that. Okay. Let's get that off again. As long as you don't wait too long, you should be able to pull it off if it's just stuck on there with adhesive. Okay, we want enough there. Okay. So I think I want the bow just a little bit further in. And a little bit smaller. I like the small bows. There we go. So we're going to stick it on the one side so we know where we're heading in terms of how long and how many dots to use. Okay, so this is the back side. Make sure I rub that on there. There we go. And I'm going to put it across the top this time. Whoops. But I want it to go a little bit over. There we go. Come on. There we go. There we are. Put one behind. When you put one behind the bow, even though it doesn't really need it, it does help to keep the bow from coming apart. So it is kind of a good practice. Okay, gonna trim a little bit. I'm just gonna use one on the end there. Kind of weird how that turned out, but all good. There we go. There we go. All right, and there we are. A little bow. Put it back on the card. There we go. Whoops, only have a little left of that. It's one of my faves. Okay, so I want to have this. If you go down in the woods today, but I don't really want it to cover up this technique. How does that look? It's kind of an off color. I think what I'm going to do is trim it. I don't need all the words. It's just that old song, you know, if you go down to the teddy bear's picnic, but it's kind of good for scary-ish. A little tiny bit more. I'll just trim ever so slightly. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to tuck that under there so you can see the words. You go into the woods today. This has a bit of purple in it. Actually, I could have it. No. Or I could have it. No. Or I can have it. Tucked in here. Something there. And then Happy Halloween. I'm going to pop dot with my pop dots. This is going to need a little more because it's long. Oh, doesn't need the dog hair. There we go. And there you go, your other card. Looks a little crooked for some reason. There we go. Ta-da! And then you put something on the inside. So there is the same technique used in Halloween cards. Okay, so in addition to the 2 Halloween cards that you saw me actually making, I've also created a Christmas card. Let there be some focus there. So same techniques, added some doodads and a sentiment on the inside, Merry Christmas. So that's another way you can use this. I made a birthday card as well. And I'm just going to check my focus here. Oh, don't like that focus. There we go. All right, so I've included a background, a sparkle background, pop dotted the cake, tucked in a little hooray, and instead of using a ribbon or a border, I've put in a saying, and then there were some circular things that just made them into little balloons. And this piece underneath is actually the frame of another sticker. I have a habit of collecting things, and because it was perfect for a card, I just kept it to use it as a frame to add more color to this particular card. Okay, then another one that I did is this travel card. Maybe if I leave it down, and again, silver background. This is the full card size, not just the not leaving an edge. It's completely the size of an A2 card. And then I just have a little ship on there and have a safe trip. And this was a wooden seagull type bird. So I painted that with white and gray just to give it less of a shiny surface so that it's still visible even though it's similar color to the background. And then you have tucked over here some underwater seashells and such. So lots of different ways you can use this particular style of card with. So I hope you've enjoyed that making session, and you see some potential in some of these cards, and you have fun making it. Don't forget, when you're bored, you can just take strips of paper and do this technique to it. Keep them in your card making materials box, and just pull it out whenever you need it for whatever color you need it for. So that's it for me. I should let you know, this is the first week in August 2022. I will not be showing a video for the next 2 weeks as I'll be away on holiday. So I will see you in the third week of August. Third week? Fourth week of August. And we'll catch up then. Okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.